Welcome to Tawana Talks, the talkback series where special guests join me as we invite you on a journey of deep exploration. All right, well, welcome to Tawana Talks, the Tawana Talkback series. I am here with the lovely, beautiful Daye Brake. Daye Brake is a mother of two beautiful, smart, and young ladies who she is raising to be the queen that she is. She also is a founder and opener of a school, as well as Daye Brake Consulting. And on top of that, she has a book that has been published. And so I want to just introduce Daye. Tell us a little bit about your book. Tell us about your consulting business. Talk about your experience about opening a school. You've done all these great things. And then on top of that, the most rewarding job of all that I have to say is being a mom. Talk to us about that.
Oh, thank you so much, Tawana. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Well, it is just a pleasure and a blessing to be here. So thank you again for inviting me to come on today. That is my prized possession, being a mother. That is the accomplishment that I am the most proud of. I have a daughter named Faith, who is 4, and Joy, who just turned 10. And so, just being a mom has been the most rewarding experience of my life. I think one of the most impressive things has been that I have been an entrepreneur for a while, I'd say about 4 months now, having come off of a position, but I have been an entrepreneur in the past. And just being here with them has given me so much joy. Being able to be with them day after day. I homeschool Faith, so that has been rewarding because she's in pre-K. So just, really getting to know myself and getting to know them has been a new transition. I'm on a shift in the process of shifting my life and really learning who I am and who I am for them. So it's been very rewarding. But I did just recently publish a book called Our Prayer, A Family Tradition Before Bed. And it is a prayer that my mom taught me when I was growing up. She taught it to me and my sister. So I passed that prayer down to my 2 girls. And then we created a book out of it. And I just love it. It's an ebook right now, and the print book will come out in around October, November. So very soon. And then we'll be able to really spread that across the world. The vision here is that everyone in the world will be saying our prayer and just thanking God before they go to bed, and just making sure that they talk to God before they go to bed at night. Because, praying before bed is it's not what it was. I know when I was growing up, everybody would say a prayer before bed.
Yeah.
But when I talk to people, they're like, pray before bed. Yeah, we don't really do that. So that's really the vision, to make sure that we remember that God comes first and that we place him first even before we go to bed at night.
That's awesome.
And then
before you get into the next thing, I just want to say the link for the book will be in the description. So if you're watching, go to the description, click on that link, get the book. I have it. My daughter and I, we enjoy it. It has visuals of Faith and Joy. And let's just back up for that. This family is going to be truly blessed. Listen to these names: Daye Brake, Faith, and Joy. So they are in the book, and it's a beautiful book. So again, go to the link and download that book and have it for you and your family. And although it's for 2 beautiful girls, it can be for anyone with children, nieces, and nephews. So go ahead and support that. Now talk to us
thank
more.
you for that. Thank you. And that's right, because it has male characters in the book as well. So Faith has a stepbrother named Josiah, and they have a cousin named William. And so Josiah and William are in the book as well. So it's for all ages, all genders, and anyone can say this prayer before they go to bed. And it's just something, again, to remember to put God first before we go to sleep at night. And I know sometimes even when the girls don't say the prayer, they're like, I had bad dreams. I'm like, see, you didn't pray. So it's the importance of remembering to pray before you go to bed.
Now you have 12 years experience in education, and so it would be remiss of me not to mention that, but also you're schooling your daughter on the premise that you have the substantiated amount of education. You've been a principal. I didn't mention that, and so I want to make sure that I mentioned that, as well as an assistant principal. You also opened a school in the midst of being a mom and all of those great things, and now you are consulting under Daye Brake Consulting, and information will be in the description as well for contact. And so I want you to talk a little bit about your consulting and your experience, wherever you want to take us for that, but tell us a little bit more information about that.
Yeah, so I started teaching in Florida about 12 years ago. I started as a 6th grade language arts teacher. Did that for 2 years. And then when I moved to North Carolina, I started in seventh grade. So I taught for about 4 years and I realized when I came to North Carolina, it looked nothing like it looked in Florida.
Mm.
So that was like the biggest shock to me. Like when I came to North Carolina, it was like the kids ran the school. The
Mm.
behaviors were off the chain. You had kids cursing out administrators. It was just crazy. So that was where the vision came to start my own school, because I couldn't believe that school looked the way that it did when I got to North Carolina. So I actually started down the path of opening a public charter school. I started out in the Principal Fellows Program, which is offered in the state of North Carolina, where you agree to serve 5 years or 4 years as an administrator in order to pay back the scholarship loan. So I did that program, finished that in 2018, and then I opened my school in 2019. I co-founded. So my co-founder and I, we worked very hard to get Blue Green Academy off the ground. We started with about 100 students. We had 200 applications, but through trial and error, learning a lot of things, it ended up being 100 when the doors opened. So we learned a lot through that process. But when the school opened, it was on the brink of the COVID year. As everyone
Mm-hmm.
knows, COVID came in 2020, and that just changed everything for us.
Right.
So the board voted to close the school in 2020. I wouldn't say that I regret opening a school because I learned so much from it, but through those regrets and the things that I learned from it, I thought about how fortunate I am to just having gone through that experience so that I can give back to others as they decide to open schools as well.
Yeah.
So when the school closed, we it was kind of hard to find a position right away. So that's when I first started my consulting business, because I just wanted to give back and see how I could still be in education and empower others to do some similar things that I was doing. But my passion has always been to help teachers. Even as a middle school teacher, I was always the teacher that the principal would want me to go into other teachers' rooms and show them different strategies, help them to see ways that they can curb the behaviors and just create more engaging lessons, because
Mhm.
those were the things that I learned when I was in Florida. So having started Daye Brake Consulting in 2020, I started as a culture consultant with a charter school in Charlotte. And with that school, I just created all these. I loved it because it was just so much in my passion, and what I feel my purpose is to create strong cultures in the virtual learning environment, and rewarding students when they did the right thing. So we had this program going where kids could get gift baskets and gift cards and just all kind of fun, exciting things for just doing what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And from that position, that school actually hired me as the assistant principal. So I kind of put the consulting to the side because, that's an entrepreneur type thing, and so
Mm-hmm.
the pay comes with, it's like contracted, and the pay wasn't consistent. So as the assistant principal, I needed that, especially having two young girls, to be able to have a stream of income that was consistent.
Right.
From the assistant principal role in a year, I moved into the principal of that school. And honestly, if looking back on it, I love the fact that I was able to serve as the principal, but again, I had that entrepreneurship spirit in me and wanting to do things the way that I knew that they were supposed to be done. So coming out of that principal role this past June, I have decided to relaunch Daye Brake Consulting. And again, the focus is to help teachers, but also
Mm-hmm.
tapping into what it means to be an effective educator and how to open a school effectively. So hosting strategy sessions where I can help people to open a school, but also digging deeper into student engagement and school culture, and helping teachers to create those environments so that all kids can learn. Because when behaviors are just out of control, you
Right.
can't really get the learning in. And so that's why I really want to focus on helping teachers to understand the relationships that they have to build, the consistency that has to take place, and then having different strategies, such as cooperative learning strategies, that can help them to keep their students engaged so that the students they have the buy-in and they want to do the work learning in the process.
Right. Right. And I certainly appreciate that. Have had and am still the opportunity to work with you, and all of that greatness does shine. Um, I want to go ahead and plug this in here as well because they often forgets to say this, but this is amazing. She worked for Disney, and that is like I've never met anybody that worked for Disney except for the people that worked at Disney when I was there. So knowing her and seeing all of that greatness shine, and Disney didn't teach her the things that she does great, but bringing that culture and that shiningness, I just made that word up. So it'll be in the dictionary next year. To what she does, I'm able to see that. But I want to talk about something. So I have a talk that's titled "You Have to Treat Them Before You Teach Them," and I want to mention that that was the person mentioned in that talk, that podcast, that the conversation was you, and that you were the inspiration behind that talk. And I remember when we had that conversation, it was right behind the premise of you talking about you have to be able to get to the behaviors and get to the culture before you can actually do some teaching. And you and I were talking, and I said, you got to treat them before you can teach them, and that treatment needs to come. And so that was, you were the inspiration for that. And I've known you for quite some time and recognized that in you. So I want you, let's shift just a little bit, but it's still within the same, because as you continuously mention, and as we know, you are a mom, and you are a mom of two young girls, both in one not in school and one in elementary school, and you've done all of these great things. And we, if you're a mom on here, you're listening, being a mom is hard. Like, we be
Mhm.
momming it, momming all day. And we and I said in another podcast, even with being a mom, we do all the great things for our kids, and then just when we say our kids will never, that's when they be never, and like they never
Right.
before. And so like, give us some words or something like you can give about all these great things you're doing, this entrepreneurial thing, even being an administrator, being a leader, and still having to lead in your home as being a mom. What does that look like? How do you self-care? How do you go through your days so that you can still be successful in both spaces? How are you balancing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's really hard, honestly. It's not easy, but it takes a lot of faith and patience. I think one thing that has helped me is to create a routine and a schedule, which I
Mhm.
don't have down pat just yet, but we're working on it. Where Faith and I, when you homeschool, you don't have to do Monday through Friday, 8 to 3 or whatever. So we do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 9 to 1. And it's kind of on and off. We have learned a lot of learning games and playtime, so it doesn't feel so much like the sit and get, which I was never that kind of teacher anyway. I hate the sit and get type of concept. So I take a lot of what I learned as a teacher and incorporate that with her, whether we're using Play-Doh and paint, or getting up singing and moving and dancing, because again, that's the type of teacher that I was. So I take all those same things and bring that into her environment.
Mhm.
Another thing I think helps is her diet. The things that I feed her, I try to make sure that it's things that are going to stimulate her brain and keep her energized and not
Yeah.
sluggish to bring her down. I let her have more of that junk stuff on the weekends, but during the week, it's a lot of fruits and vegetables and nuts and water, things that again are going to stimulate her and to keep her active and not sluggish.
Mhm.
But again, for me, I think it's about the balance of it all. I have not just, I would say, just in the past 2 months, I've started to say that I'm going to have at least one weekend to myself, where I send the girls with their dads or with their cousin or their aunt. And I just really take that time to focus on me, whether that's looking into my business or just taking time to take a nap, to just
Yeah.
relax and
Yeah.
to rest. And I do that too. I take naps like every single day. And I think
Napping.
but that's the beauty of not having to work a 9 to 5. Like, you can
Yeah.
literally take a nap. And I try
Yeah.
to do it right before I pick up Joy, because she rides the bus, and so I can drive to her bus stop because they do the cluster stops. But I drive to that stop and I try to take that nap just right before I have to pick her up. So when I pick her up, I'm ready to
Yeah.
engage her and be energized to work with her.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the things that have worked for me. But again, it's not easy, and I'm still
Yeah.
learning. I'm still trying to get through this. It's all very new for us right now, seeing that in the past 2 years, I was working in a school as an
Mhm.
administrator. And at that time, it was horrible. I mean, my Joy would say things like, "I can't wait till you don't work here no more," because not to
Yeah.
mention I'm living in Winston-Salem and I'm driving to Charlotte, so
Right, right, right,
it was
right.
like 3 hours in the car every day and waking her up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then we don't get home till 6 or 7 o'clock at night. So it was a struggle, but it taught me a lot. I think I'm one of the
Mhm.
most resilient people that I know.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I can bounce back from anything and just keep it moving. And so
Yeah.
just to have this time now to really spend with them and to put me first, it's nothing but a blessing. I really thank God that I'm able to focus on finding out who I am, what is my purpose, what is my destiny, where do you want me to go so that I can follow you, as opposed to trying to cater to someone else's agenda for who I'm supposed to
Mhm.
be.
Yeah. I love the fact that you talked about routine and schedule and it looking different. I think that that's a highlight that we need to highlight. Like, because I think first of all, as educators, sometimes we get in the midst of it having to look a certain way. It has to be a certain
Yeah,
way because, as a teacher, um, as an educator, we're like, don't reinvent the wheel. Like, there's things out there. But like you, I was one, like I was always reinventing because there always needed to be iteration because there was always evolution. And so we had to look at it different. One class that I taught didn't look exactly like the second
right.
class that I taught because there were different people. And so I think it's important to highlight, you know, the overarching thing is a routine and schedule. But
Hmm.
the specificity of what that looks like is what that looks like for you and your family.
Right.
So that, when you get stressed out or you get, what's the word I'm looking for, feel defeated because you're like, well, I'm not doing it like them. Well, the information that they give you is just a crop of a crop of a crop of the information. You don't have the whole picture. No one ever has the whole picture of your life. And so it's important for you to take that piece and say, okay, here's the big picture, routine and schedule. And now how do I fit that in? And then the other important piece that you said, which I think is really important, is the intentionality behind what you do. Like think looking at what you're feeding your girls so that they can operate, excuse me, in their prime. And I think that is powerful, and then the other part of that is still allowing them to have some indulgence and a
Yeah.
healthy balance so it's not like, oh, this is torture,
Right.
and so they can still have that indulgence, but during the time where that they have something to learn, that you're
Yeah.
giving them something to be able to balance off of that. You and I both know as educators, and we've worked in systems you know where students may not have had certain things, how
Right.
important that was for them to come with a balanced meal or be able to have that available to them. Um, I I was principal as well, and I saw kids with Takis, and I was like, absolutely not for breakfast.
Correction.
We're not
Right.
doing that for breakfast. And then I had my team develop a commercial on how that's going to affect you later. Like when you sleeping later, or you got an attitude with the teacher, you don't realize it's because all you had was a Snickers. Like
Right.
not going
Yeah.
anywhere for a while. Like you need
Right.
to get something else because you acting real, real diva-ish. So you've seen those Snickers commercials. So
Uh,
I think I really, really, really do appreciate you talking about the intentionality behind it. That's definitely powerful. So you mentioned too about your business and some things you were doing, and I hear it in what you're doing with your little ones about student engagement. Tell tell us like why like that's a passion of yours. Um, like why is that so important to you? Because other people have other passions in education. Like what sparked or what happened or what went on in your life that you felt like this is where my calling is and this is what I really need to focus on.
yeah. Well, okay. So I remember when I was a seventh grade teacher here in Winston-Salem, I taught beside a teacher, or it was across the hall. She was across the hall, and I could hardly get my lesson in because across the hall, you heard her screaming at
Oh
them,
wow.
you heard them cursing at her. It was a zoo over there. While in my room, we might have been making noise, but it was like it was like they were learning through their talking and the engagement was high. Like I never ever and again, this comes from what I learned in Florida, because I taught my first year teaching was at a charter school in Florida.
Oh, okay.
Never allow your kids to just sit and listen to you, because the brain, I learned this in my graduate program, the brain can only, when you have an hour-long class, the brain can only stay focused on one concept for 20 minutes. And
Yeah,
that's even in adults. So
exactly.
imagine as a child, like their attention span just isn't big enough. So they've tuned you out after 15, 20 minutes or so. Nonetheless, I would be teaching and I would have to go across the hall multiple times during the day and get her class straight, because they were making so much noise that we couldn't focus on the things that we were doing. And to the point where my principal had me go in and start coaching her. And I'm like, I'm a third year teacher at this point. So it's like, I don't really know how to coach her, but I know the things. I'm just telling her, watch what I do, watch what I say. And then she would practice it, and I would meet with her after school and just try to help her that way. But that's when I really realized, like, I have a passion for this, like to be able to help her, and for her to come back to me at the end of the day and say, Miss Brake, what you did worked. I love that strategy, or I like how so that's when I said, maybe I could do this on a larger scale. But when I realized as a principal, you don't really get to do that the way that you want to, because a principal has to handle everything. It's not just working with the teachers and helping to coach them. And I think even as a curriculum coach, you have to dig so much into the curriculum that it's not always about the behaviors and the culture and the relationships that you build. So I want to allow principals to have that flexibility. I
Mm-hmm.
want to be able to go into schools and work with the teachers on the culture and the behavior side, and bringing the engagement into their lessons so that the curriculum piece can take place. Because a lot of times teachers can't get their learning in because they're too busy trying to reel in the behaviors and get the students back focused. Well, if you have engaging strategies where the kids may not even realize they're learning through those strategies, whether it's cooperative learning strategies, that's another thing I was trained on, where I have over 45 strategies that the kids will talk and they'll move, but that's the engagement piece. And they're still talking about the content, even though they're having fun during the process. And I just realized here, and I'm sure other places in the world, teachers just don't have that knowledge. That's
Yeah.
not something that you learn in college, how to make learning fun. And I just really love it when students would always say, well, I can't wait to go back to Miss Brake class because it was fun. Like we literally had fun and just, doing different things to
Yeah.
reward them so that they understood that learning is powerful. And when you learn, you will be rewarded for your learning.
Right.
And of course, that meant coming out of my pocket sometimes, but that's something else I want to bring to schools.
Yeah.
As the consultant, I will not only help your teachers to see what those strategies are, but help them to see different ways you can reward your students. And then when you pay for the service, some of those rewards will come through that service,
Yeah.
so that the school doesn't necessarily have to come out of pocket. Besides purchasing the consultant, they're actually purchasing the rewards through that program.
Yeah. I'm wondering, you got me thinking, like, I'm wondering where the thought was lost between school being fun. Like, where
Yeah.
was why did we lose that? Why was that not something that traveled
I
through
you
the
know,
continuum?
I don't think it's a norm. I don't
It's
think it's
not,
a
it's not. I'm
norm
just trying to figure out, like,
for
why did we lose that? Like, what and some of it I really think, like, when I start to think back and just thinking about especially where we are now. You and I both know how the turnover rate across the world is high when it comes to teachers, especially through the pandemic and everything that's going on. And I start to kind of conclude that, now schools are a little bit desperate in hiring because
Yeah.
you got to have teachers to teach kids. Even in some areas, they're hiring teachers right out of college or still in college, so they have no pedagogical knowledge whatsoever. And so that training, and it's difficult to train and coach a teacher in the midst of it right now.
Right.
And so I'm thinking that some of that could have been lost along the waistline because you have very new teachers there. And in order to be comfortable in your skin, if you will, in the classroom, you have to feel confident and knowledgeable. And
Right.
you can't veer or have that fun because you're like, I need to be confident in this. And so if I need everyone sitting straight, look at me so that any loose movement throws me off. So I need to have full control of what's going on, or it's going to throw me off. So being able to strategize a way that allows that teacher to bring their full self, be authentic, and really be transparent and authentic with, like, this is a struggle. I may not know all of this, but
Right.
if you are understanding that, well, first of all, if you're teaching sixth grade, let's say, for instance, you did do sixth grade before, so relax. I remember when I was taking the praxis years ago for science, and oh no, I was elementary school or the middle school, one of the praxis or whatever the case may be. And I was so nervous, but what made me nervous was taking a test, because I had never took that type of test before. And the best piece of advice that someone gave me on, like, it was like either a group chat or Facebook, and this was years ago, so I don't even know if it was a Facebook chat, but not that many years ago. So do not. But I just remember it was some type of group something. Somebody said to me, but the best advice they gave me was, "You did eighth grade before.
Mm,
What are you so nervous about?" And I was
yeah.
like, "Oh," they were like, you are so nervous because it's a test, and all of the other things will come with regards to coaching you and teaching. But I feel like if it's truly your passion,
Hmm.
you to be in a profession, you to be really really successful at it, it has to be your passion. You can't go into something just for the money. And
Yeah.
so it was my passion, so I was able to teach it and be authentically myself, where I didn't need to have full control. Everybody has to sit down, like, you can get up and move, because that's me, that's how I do it. So I that brings me to the question for you with, why do you feel like you were so great at being able to live, like, what was your experience, and when you got in that classroom where you felt like, oh, this just came so natural to you, how did that happen for you?
Well, every single person almost in my family is an educator. So I think it's kind of like in my DNA. But kind of going back to what you mentioned about Disney, I did work for Disney right out of college. I graduated from Spelman College in 2007, which was a semester early. So I was able to complete an internship with Disney Institute in 2008. And I stayed there for 4 years. But in that time, I wasn't the princess in the park or anything like that. Like,
So you wasn't Princess Tiana.
no, I wasn't. I worked in the training and development arm.
Right. Oh yeah, yeah.
So Disney Institute would go to different companies. They worked with, Price Waterhouse Coopers, Coca-Cola. They worked with Verizon. They worked with all the top-notch companies, and they would go in and teach them how to do it with the way that Disney did it.
Hmm.
So in my role, I was the sales and marketing coordinator. But
Yeah.
again, I started out as an intern. So as an intern, you get to go in all the different departments. You learn all the ins and outs of everything from the parks to vacation club to publishing. I even got to work with Disney Publishing a little bit. And then they hired me full time as a sales and marketing coordinator. So my foundation is strong. Like, I thank God for my foundation because I was able to see the way things should be. I would go to different trainings, and I got those trainings for free. People were paying thousands of dollars to do Disney's approach to leadership excellence and Disney's approach to people management and quality service and inspiring creativity. But I did all of those programs for free and would take that knowledge and apply it to starting my own business, but also operating my classroom like it was my own business. So that was kind of the mentality that I had, that I wanted my classroom to be like the model of what all classrooms should be. So again, it was part of my passion. It was part of what I really wanted. And I worked hard to create that environment.
I think that's awesome. And I love that you made sure you eradicated that stereotype. You were not the Disney princess. Let's make sure we highlight that on here, because, you're so beautiful. And so if people are like, oh, you work for Disney, you must have been one of the characters. Absolutely not. We
No,
have a brain powerhouse here. This brains come with this beauty. And
thank
being in those spaces and being able, and other Spelman, year early, Disney, like, come on, that is phenomenal. And then being able to take that knowledge and apply it and be successful in so many other areas, and not just in your professional areas, but also your personal areas and with your girls. That is powerful. And so let me ask you this: how do you think that parents could use the tools that we as educators have, or those tools that we talk about? You have to treat them to teach them, or even some of those behavior concepts that you've used in your classroom. How do you think I'm going to ask two parts questions. How do you think parents could do that at home in a home life skill? And if the way to answer that is how do you do it? If that's a better way to ask the question, how do you use that with, you know, leading and momming your girls?
Yeah. That is a great question because it's not something I really think about. It's just kind of something I do, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One thing that I like, we have this thing where we have folding clothes parties,
Oh,
you know.
that's we need that over here. Folding clothes. I just had to talk about how I didn't treat them clothes for 24 to 78 hours, and that's why I kept bumping my knee. Folding clothes. I need to hold on.
Yeah.
Wait,
So
wait,
I'm like,
excuse me.
everything,
I need you to
you
give
know,
me step by step the folding clothes party. But go ahead, tell me.
it's not like, it's like I know life is not a game and life is not always fun,
Is it
but
not though? Is
it
it not?
can be. When it can be, why not make it? When it can be,
Sweet.
just make it
I
fun.
love that.
Um, so we play three songs. One, you get to choose who's gonna pick the first song, the second song, and the third song. And usually Joy wants to pick the third song because the third song is the song we dance to. We take a dance break
Of course.
and we all dance to the third song. But during the first and second song, you have to be folding. So it's like try to get as many clothes folded in those first two songs that you can.
Love
And on
it.
that third song, you dance. We have snacks. We go to Walgreens to get all our favorite snacks, and then
Oh,
we
I love
so
it.
during the third, so during the third song, we're just like partying, and then it's like back to folding clothes when we play the song again. So that's just one example.
Oh my God, I love that. I had to write that down. I love that because folding clothes is like the dread. I'm like, dude,
It
what
is.
is
It is.
so what was one of your favorite, tell us one of your favorite either songs that was picked or one of your favorite moments of the folding clothes party. I love that. I love that.
So the crazy thing is like just being who I am. I grew up on gospel music. I love gospel music. I'm always the one picking the gospel music songs. So they usually don't want to dance to my song until it's like a upbeat. Or like Joy loves Anthony Brown. So once I start playing Anthony Brown, she want to hear all the Anthony Brown
Yeah, yeah.
songs. Faith, on the other hand, Faith is always picking Disney soundtrack songs like Encanto and The Little Mermaid. But Joy also likes a lot of pop and rock and
Uh-huh.
hip hop. So, like I said, she usually picks the third song. But my favorite part of it is just being able to dance with them. Like we
Yeah.
stop and we just really have a dance party.
Yeah, I did a talk with another young lady named Tanista, and she talked about having a 30 point checklist of 30 things that you're going to do for yourself, something very small. And dancing, after I adopted that, because now it's
Yeah.
mine, I own that. Dancing is one of them, and it's so funny because dancing is something that you have to be really vulnerable to do, right? Unless you are,
Yeah. Yeah. You're at home with your
can't
kids.
even think about I can't even think about a famous dancer. What's Felicia Rashad's sister name again? Debbie Allen, unless you're Debbie
Yeah.
Allen or somebody like that, or Beyonce, and even she talks about her anxiety and things of that nature. When going out there, she has to be Sasha Fierce to do it, and so even in my moments of dancing by myself, I'm like even ready to criticize myself and be like, "Girl, what you doing?" Like, but ain't nobody here,
Oh
so
no.
just dance. And so what I said in that one,
Yeah.
speaking about dancing, is if you're when you give release those endorphins and just dance in your own space, I feel like it heightens a sense of confidence. Like if I can do this in my own space and I can critique myself, now I'm in a space where I can do other things in front of other people, and then I invite them into that space. I was listening to something else, was like, invite your critics, invite them mentally, invite them physically, and then so that you can be able to say, I know you're there, recognizing them, and say, but your words don't matter. So
Yeah.
is that, but that dancing is because when I'm home, I would and I just don't look in the mirror because I'm like, who are you looking at?
Yeah. Well, I grew up taking dance, so I don't,
Me,
I look. Oh, did you?
the whole recital by myself, nobody showed up, it was just me.
Really? See, like I was like this is how like I know I'm like when I was in the fifth grade, I went to this arts and academic school. It was a new built school here in Winston Salem, and we every December we would do the Nutcracker. And so the
Mm.
school got to do it with the North Carolina School of the Arts in the Stevens Center, downtown Winston-Salem. And there was one year in my 5th grade year where I was Clara in the Nutcracker play, the main character.
Oh,
And I
that's
think from
something
then
new. I
on,
never knew that. Oh my God, that is awesome.
like it's like I'm not scared to do anything, you know. It's like I got
Wow.
there and do the ballet in front of them. Like I can do big crowds and perform in front of big crowds. It's when it's the small crowds that I
You can
get
hear the
nervous.
voices. Like, whoa,
Yeah,
I hear everybody. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think, like I said, I used to dance when I was little. And it was one, we had an Italian festival every year in our neighborhood area, our side of town. And I was about, maybe I think I was like 6. My mother can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the whole recital gamut, everything I was doing,
Hmm.
jazz, tap, and ballet. And our whole team was supposed to come to this, the whole crew was supposed to come to the event, and we got there, nobody was there, just me. I had to get on that little stage and do my little tap dance thing on that stage. And I remember even having pictures where I'm guiding everybody else video. I'm like, no, you just how you're supposed to do it, like the other team and doing jazz. But that one particular time by
Wow.
myself, I think the good point in that was you mentioned dancing when you were younger and still having that confidence to
Mm,
do it in larger crowds, and then smaller crowds you got you know those voices are there. And then I have the same experience dancing when I was younger in small crowds and large crowds, but as I gotten older, I would not be dancing in front of anybody. But I think the point in that is life's experiences, and so
uh,
we go through life and we pick up things that either hinders us from doing the things that we were just so comfortable with doing as being young. And so I think the point with, or sometimes we learn things that propels us to
mhm.
do it more. But notice that even with your more, it was not small crowds though. That's where it might come, and that's a life thing. And I think if we were able to sometimes sit back and even with your aspect of making it fun and engaging, I think that if we able if one thing I could think I want people to take away from this, including the great Jews that you've just dropped here, is if we can sit back and think about our childlike life behaviors that brought us joy. There's trauma in life and things like that. So I'm not thinking about those things, but the things that brought us joys and the things that we just did as kids that we didn't worry about nobody else. Like we
Yeah,
just did
yeah.
it. And if we can bring a little bit of that back into adulthood,
Mhm.
I think that's what makes life a little bit better.
Yeah, it's that childlike faith.
Yeah.
You know, to me, that's like what I learned from my girls when they're like, especially Faith, like her name is Faith, and she is so
She'd be like, I'm doing
like, I will do whatever. I'm not scared of anything. But just even just that belief and that understanding, like they truly and honestly believe that we're gonna be millionaires one day. I believe it too, but I'm
Yeah.
like the way that they believe it. Joy even went so far as to say, millionaires. Why can't we be billionaires?
I
You know,
know that's right. I know that's
that,
right.
yeah. So that mindset, they're like, there's nothing stopping them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think as educators, it's important to point out that we, instead of talking about the reasons why not and stifling their thoughts, we need to help them to tap into the reasons and the hows why, so that it broadens their perspectives and it doesn't limit the avenues, but it helps them to see other avenues to still get to their success and their goals. And that I feel for me being an educator and knowing that God placed me on this earth for that is our mission, is to
Yeah.
teach children how to have a broad perspective to reach their God-given purpose. And so if there's one last thing that you would like people to take away in all of the things that we talked about, because one thing I'm saying I took away is this folding party. That's I all of the things. I'm gonna be listening, putting that down. But that one thing I'm gonna be implementing like right away. Do I gotta close the
Yeah.
school today? Wait a minute.
But
I'm trying to
also it helped me to teach them. Like before Joy, she didn't even want to learn how to fold clothes. But
Mm,
once we started doing that, it's like, oh yeah, show me. Like I want to know.
I know that's right. Teach me how to Dougie, mom. So if there's one thing that you want people to take away from this in any aspect of things that we talked about, what's that one or two things that you want to leave with the peoples?
Um, Let me just say that life is what you make it. I think that if you have the mindset and the belief that you can do anything, you absolutely can. I have always operated on the premise of nothing can stop me, no one can stop me, God is in control. And I just have the honest belief in who I am and what I can become. And I think that's what's allowed me to accomplish the things that I have. And I instilled that in my children and in my students, and even in the teachers that I lead. I
Mm,
think that as long as you have a belief system, you will have what you believe.
right. Well, I certainly appreciate that, Day, and I thank you so much for joining me on Tawana Talkbacks. I have pulled some great juice from this. I'm probably gonna wash clothes just to do the dance. Um, I only got like 3 things in the
Yes,
hamper,
thank you,
but I'm
Tawana.
doing it. But I thank you so much
Yes.
for agreeing to come on and agreeing to impart your knowledge and your beauty and your wisdom and sharing a little bit of yourself and your life with me and those who are listening. So I greatly appreciate this time with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it too. And y'all make sure you check out our prayer. Make sure you click that link.
Yes, all the links will be in the description if you're watching, and they'll be in the description if you're listening. And thanks again, Day.
Thank you, Tawana.